my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker this morning. He's hardly a guest. He's been a member of Central since 2006. David Nisbet. David was born into the Disciples of Christ Church in Russellville, Arkansas, as his father, Dinsmore Nisbet, was minister of the faith. He moved to Disciples of Christ churches in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, Baytown, Texas, and graduated high school in Ashland, Kentucky. David graduated from Transylvania University in 1983. His primary work career has consisted of 19 years with the Valvoline Company, then another 19 years in small business. David is married to Pam, and together they have 5 daughters: Jane, husband Jonathan, Sarah, Kelsey, Emma, and Abby. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to David Nisbet.
I'm glad and happy to be here. For those of you that haven't done this, if you see David Royce coming at you after breakfast this morning, and you don't want to do this, run. Run. David came to me after and I have followed legends before. I had speaking at a Best Friends, and who did I have to follow? I had to follow Virginia Bell. You don't want to do that. Who am I following here? David Shiren. So that's okay. I'll take the bullet. But I'm happy to be here. You did a pretty good job of introducing my family. Yes, I have the wife at home, Pam. She's still working for Valvoline. Jane is working for UK, going to Louisville Graduate School. Her husband is going to UK Graduate School, and he just switched jobs, and he's doing great. He's working with people that own Juul, Marlboro cigarettes. So he's got a good job. They're here in Lexington. They have my only granddaughter, and I'm pleased about that. Spent a lot of time with that. Sarah's in Boston. She's working for Moderna. That's right up her alley. She loves it. Her dream was always to go work for the CDC and save the world. So she's in a good spot right now. Kelsey lives with us. She works at an assisted living facility. My twins, my babies, who are now 23, close to 24 years old. Abby is a UK nurse. She's in her first year. I'll never forget, she called me about 2 weeks after she started that job, and she says, "Dad, I'm rich." She got her first paycheck. Then she said, "Who's FICA?" So I had to explain that a little bit. And Emma's in graduate school. Now, before I get started, I'm going to give 10%. We haven't retired 10%. I'm going to give 10% of my time. I want to give it back to the church because I'm congregational care chairperson. And that's a tough job to do during COVID because we don't have any get-togethers. But I want to tell you some thoughts, and I've got a bunch of guys here together, and I just want to tell you some thoughts that I'm thinking about congregational care, and it'll take me less than 2 minutes. Number one is we have a small dementia team. Guys, it's prevalent, it's everywhere. If you need help, just call me. The idea is all we're going to do is we're going to put about 5 to 10 different people around that family and give them help, give them support, give the care partner a break. It's needed, all right? That's number one. Number two, it's hard to be, "Hank, welcome back. I didn't see you here." It's hard to be a church that says, our community table is open to all when all can't get to it. We need a handrail going up those steps, those hard marble steps. I truly believe that. I think unless we're going to put a box as we select our elders and our worship leaders, can they go up those steps? You're going to have to check that off. Can they go up those steps without a handrail? We need to figure out, because that's going to eliminate a lot of people. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. The last thing we need, I attended this. Kelly's here. Molly went. I think Adam went. This is probably 4 years ago, but it hasn't stopped. Active shooter training, I believe, our congregational care. I think we need to include that. We need some in-reach versus outreach sometime. And that hasn't stopped. It's still going on. There's a church, it was a synagogue in Pittsburgh, I believe, that gave credit. We had just had active shooter training, and they said, without question, it saved lives. It saved lives. I think we need to look at that again. We're a historical church in Lexington. We're open to all. We host the Martin Luther King services. Could we be a target? Yeah, absolutely, we could be a target. And I think we need that for ourselves. That being said, congregational care meeting is closed. And how you doing? I'm David. I was born in Russellville, Arkansas. I was the first baby born in Polk County, Arkansas. I got powdered milk. I got cloth diapers. I got some nice, cool stuff. My dad did not get his tax deduction. It was a Sunday morning. Both my brother and I, my older brother, we were both born on Sunday mornings, early Sunday mornings that Dad had to preach. During this little talk, great reflection. And I've done this all my life. I reflect back on my times. And sometimes things happen and I don't figure it out till 10, 20, 30, 40 years later. This happened several times. And my birth is one of them. All right. First of all, let me tell you, every picture I've ever had growing up, I got a hat on, right? Cowboy hat, baseball hat, and they're always a little crooked. And I figured out, probably when I was 40, that my head's a little crooked. Right? It's a little lopsided. I can't wear a hat right. It's going to turn on, so I kind of look goofy. And I'm thinking back, I thought, you know, they were rushing me to try to get me born for that tax deduction. I wonder, you know, those forceps back in 1961 were crude instruments. I wonder, and I thought, no, that couldn't be. I find out probably when I'm 45 or 50 that the doctors had Cotton Bowl tickets. We're in Arkansas. Arkansas was playing in the Cotton Bowl. They had Cotton Bowl tickets. They wanted me out of there worse than my dad. I'm just saying, Josh, I know statute of limitations up, but we could have had a case there. So I was born in Russellville. I don't remember anything about that church. I remember something about all the other churches my dad had. From there, we went to Tennessee. Oak Ridge, Tennessee, was in 1949. They took the gates down. That was in the laboratory, the nuclear research. It was a gated community, gated town. Security was tight. They took those down in 49. We moved there in, I think it was early 62. And we lived in a D house, a government D house. That was the largest they had. Had 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. We thought that was pretty big. But it was in a row of several of those houses. And that's where we lived for about half the time we were there. We got to know Sticky Malicky Goo-Hoo Mountain. I remember that very well. Dad played with us. You'll hear this, that happened everywhere we went. Dad was a part of my life. And I'm going to tell you that is the man that I look up. If it wasn't my dad, it would have been my dad's dad. And if it wasn't my dad's dad, it would have been my mom's dad. Family was important. But we moved again in Tennessee to a parsonage next door to the church. I thought we were rich. Brand new house. I mean, it had 3 different floors. The backyard was woods. It was a forest to me. We had a playground. We loved Tennessee. We was to the sports there. We'd go to high school football games. Oak Ridge football. My gosh, that was big time football. Here's what I think back, reflect on this later. Oak Ridge they were orange and white. Their end zones were checkerboard, just like Tennessee Volunteers. I loved Tennessee Volunteers for a long time because of my experience in Oak Ridge. You know what Oak Ridge's mascots are? The Wildcats. Now go figure that. And I forgot to tell you, let me back up one second because this is important. I told you about the Cotton Bowl in Arkansas. Everybody's rushing to get my doctors. Arkansas, heavily favored, lost. Late touchdown in 4th quarter. Lost 76. 7-6 to Duke. So literally, you guys started this when Laker did his shot. Duke's been in my crawl since 1961. Tennessee, I love football. We didn't want to leave there. And when Mom and Dad set us down and said, hey, we're going to Texas, we had a fight. We lost, but we cried. We didn't want to go. We were so happy in Tennessee. We loved it. Went to Texas, Baytown, Texas. It was cool. I decided that we could be Cowboys. We went to the Astrodome, 8th wonder of the world. The Astros were terrible. We got good seats. We had a lot of fun going to the rodeo. I got to learn about the rodeo. I got to see Jim Nabors in concert, Jimmy Dean, and believe it or not, 1969, I saw Elvis Presley in concert live at Houston Astrodome. That was cool. Went to an elementary school called Travis, first 2 years, first and second grade. It was wonderful. I'm going to tell you, it was an all-white school. This is Deep South. In 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated. My dad loved Martin Luther King. In 1964, Martin Luther King spoke at the Disciples of Christ Convention, Dallas, Texas. My dad went and met him, talked to him. I heard this story 1,000 times. He would shake his hand. I told Martin Luther King, Martin Luther, you're the best friend the white man's ever had. I heard that story time and time again. So moving on to 68, he was assassinated. Didn't know anything about it. Dad picked us up from school one day. Came home, sat down in our living room. We watched the funeral procession and the funeral service of Martin Luther King. I was young. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know why I'm here, but Dad really likes this guy, and it beats the heck out of math and science. So we watched that. Now, something else I didn't know, and this part of my life I really reflected on for a long time. I didn't know this. Race was never an issue in my house. I didn't know there was a race issue because we didn't have a race issue. It just wasn't a part of our lives. Dad was serving on a committee after Martin Luther's assassination, how to integrate the Baytown City school system. And I found out later, yeah, there were threats for the whole committee, death threats. This is how they figured it out. Dad came to us and said, you know, we're switching schools. They had built, he didn't tell me why, he didn't tell me to be careful, he didn't tell me what to expect. He said, you're going to go to a different school in 3rd grade. And it was definitely a different bus. They built a brand new school in the most depressed area of Baytown. It was called Harlem, but it was brand new, and they had the best of everything. Best technology, everything you could get. It means they had overhead projectors in every room. That was an experience for me. I never knew people hated each other because of the color of their skin. It was tough. But it was good. It was good. Tell you a story about a couple of boys. One of them was Richter. Richter liked to pick on me every day. 65 of us went into this school. And I'm not here to tell you I know what it was like to be a black man back in those days. Because I don't. Because at 3 o'clock I got to go home. I got to go home to Goose Creek Country Club in my neighborhood. But there for a while, I got to understand a little bit about life. Richter was daggone. He wanted my lunch. He wanted my milk money. He wanted anything I had. We had a shirt, a jacket like Vest Parker, and had the felt, had the tassels coming down. You know, we're cowboys. He would come up to me and just take one of those tassels, rip it off. Every time he came up to me. And I told Dad, asked me, he said, what's going on with your jacket? I said, Dad, boy named Richter's picking on me. I said, I don't know what to do. So we went and met with the vice principal here at Harlem. Here I am, 3rd grade. I can close my eyes today, and this vice principal, he is Morgan Freeman. He looks like Morgan Freeman today. That's exactly who he was. We told him what's going on. He said, next time he does it, hit him. I'm being told by this. Hit him. So, all right. So sure enough, maybe a week later or something, I'm swinging on the swings. There's 20 swings right. I'm the only one there. There's 19 others. Of course, Richter comes up, and you know he wants my swing. So he grabs my swing, and you know when you're swinging, and somebody grabs one side, you go cockeyed all over the place. And I go down to the ground, and I just came up with the strength of God. I gave him one punch to the gut, and then I took off running. I ran to Miss Romney. You don't think I don't remember this day? She had on a green dress. It was a sleeveless green dress. I remember very well. And I figured Richter would be right on my tail. I got to Miss Romney. I stopped. I turned around. Richter was still doubled over by the swing sets. It's the last person I've ever hit with my fist. Richter and I became friends. Oddly enough, I didn't invite him over to my house like Leo. Leo's my other buddy. All right? He's also a black child. We were best friends. We did a lot together. I invited Leo over to my house to play on a Saturday. Well, that's what we do, right? I remember Mom calling me out of my room saying, Leo, Mom called. She doesn't know where we live. We need to go pick him up. So we got in the car and we went on the highway. We met him at a 7-Eleven. Leo's mom didn't want to come in my neighborhood. She didn't want to come in that white neighborhood. This is 1969. This is the Deep South. I can't believe my parents, how did they do this? How did they not warn me about all this race relation stuff? They didn't, because we didn't have it in our house. I can tell you how proud I am to be that way. Leo came over. We rode bikes. He rode my brother's bike. We had a great day. We weren't bothered. Gosh, I think back now what happens. Ahmaud Arbery, you know, people like that, what they do when gosh, this is 1969, guys. It was an experience. I learned that hate is not a good thing. I learned that to hate somebody because of the color of their skin is not good. Because I felt it. I felt it. And it was a big, big experience for me. We left Baytown and went to Ashland, Kentucky. Gosh, I was in heaven. There was hills. They told me that we see snow. We could ride our bikes. I had a great time in Ashland, 4th grade through high school. Graduated. We had a tremendous church. Some of you guys know Sonny Ray. He was my dad's associate in charge of the youth. So he had us rocking. We had probably 65 kids from 9th grade through 12th grade in our youth group. CYF. We did presentations. Our unknown, the young disciples. We'd go around to different churches, mega churches, and perform In My Father's Name, different musicals. They had us rocking and rolling. We did ski trips. Everybody wanted to go on a ski trip, and that's how we got a lot of people to come to our youth group. Hey, I want to be part of that. We had basketball leagues. You couldn't play basketball if you didn't go to church. That was my dad's rule. That got people to church, and that was a very competitive basketball league, I tell you. It was very, very competitive. So I graduated Ashland. My parents went on to, I guess I should get out my notes, hadn't I? I might be missing something. I get my notes, I forget where I am. Well, I believe it or not, I was part of a group called the Unknown Disciples. It was a quartet. We used to go around singing. We had a piano player. We'd go to different churches. We would go and, we'd go to Madisonville, my grandfather's church, Disciples of Christ Church in Madisonville. Ed Kaufman, some of you guys may remember Ed Kaufman's name. I thought he was just so nice to let us sing there. We gave him a day off. And again, reflection later, I'm coming. We did the sermon. He didn't have to prepare a sermon that Saturday night. I can tell you, being a minister's kid is kind of different, because right away people they got preconceived notions about you. You're either the devil or you're an angel. You're one or the other. If you spent the night at my house, and this is minister's child, on Saturday night, the rule was, and my friends knew it, you're going to church. You spend the night at my house on Saturday night, you're going to church. A lot of nights I spent the nights someplace else on Saturday nights. And most of the time I'd have to go to church with them, but it was a rule, and it was one that was stuck, and I was very proud of. The other thing about ministers' kids, we got to see some things close up. In Ashland, I remember when I was at 4th or 5th grade, we used to take presents out to families in need. And I didn't know anything about it. We got volunteered for everything, so no different. We're going this as a family. So Ben and I get in the car with Mom and Dad. We drive. It's about 45 minutes. It's during Christmas. We had a bunch of Christmas presents. We went into a house that had no heat other than a stove. Didn't have any doors. There were no bedrooms. There were no bathrooms. It was one room. Clothes were on the floor. Some bedding was on the floor. And I watched my dad go in and give this speech about how Santa Claus had landed by his church, and he was having some problem with his sled. And Santa was running behind, and Santa asked if Dad could come out to this house, because this was a very important house to Santa. And I was just listening to him. And I was amazed at the story. And I was watching the kids. There's like 3 kids there. They'd never seen a Christmas present. And they were amazed. I mean, it was an unbelievable experience, and I'll never forget that. So these are the things I did sometimes as a minister child. We were volunteered for everything. And I went to church. Church was going on. I was at church. I always was. That's just the way it was. I had pens. Never missed a Sunday school. I had pens for all this stuff. Probably after I graduated, that may have been one reason why I kind of rejected the church for a little bit. I said, I've had enough of church. I can do what I want to on Sundays. Dad, as I told you, it was my guy. One thing he taught us, and he could be very frugal. I remember later in life, Mom would tell him the story about his dad making Mom. He'd have a cane, and he'd push around and find a penny and make Mom pick it up. And Mom and Dad would say, Joe, don't act like that's not true. He said, now I'll make you pick up dimes and nickels too. So that's Dad. But you think he was tight as can be when he had a saying, this is not an expense, it's an investment in family. So as tight as he could be, and he would make us work. We had to choose at 6th grade. Hey, you want to play Babe Ruth baseball? That's fine, but your allowance is gone. Now, I went to go work at Breezeland Swim Club in Ashland, 85 cents an hour. And I was happy to get it. 3 years later, I went to Belmont Country Club. They paid minimum wage. I was making $3.15. Might not even have to go to college. $3.15 an hour. I'm big. Those were good days. But Dad's my man. He would always want to pick up, when family reunion, he wanted to pick up everybody's rooms. Because it wasn't an expense, it was an investment in family. Pick up dinners. Anytime. Later in life, we want to do the vacation. We want to come together as a family and do vacation. So they would get the 2 houses. It's not an investment. It's not an expense. An investment in family. It's paid off. It's paid off. We have a wonderful family. I'll tell you about that there in a minute. Now, I went to Transylvania. That's true. Graduated in 4 years. I was pre-med. I met the KAs. I immediately got on probation and fought my way up from that time. Graduated with 2.65 with a degree in psychology. Not a lot you can do with that. So, my interviews were with Hoover. My first job was Season Sash. I sold windows. If I was in your house less than 4 hours, it was a short demo. I did this for 4 months, 3.5 months. I'd be in there selling very expensive windows. I could finance them, about 32% interest. I'd be in there 3rd hour, and I got all these contracts laid out on the table, and their sons or their daughters would walk in. What are you doing? And I would be chased out of the house. I was chased by kids. I was chased by dogs. I learned real quick I need to find a new job, so I got a new job. DWC Computer Solutions. Computer Solutions. Oh, that is the farthest thing from the truth. I am so computer illiterate, it's not even funny. I'm terrible. I'm terrible with high technology. My wife, when I got on Facebook, I got on Facebook because of my work with dementia care. We had Facebook pages, Dementia Friendly Huntington, then Dementia Friendly. So I had to get on Facebook just for this. And she came up to me one day and she says, you know you're listed as single on Facebook. Well, I didn't know that. I'm a college-educated guy. I can figure this out. So I got on there and I figured out, oh yeah, there's still heart married. Hit that thing. Oh, I got ripped. And if anybody knows what that means on Facebook, it means you got married that day. It was a Wednesday. I started getting texts. Dad, Wednesday's weddings, they're wonderful. You know, thanks for the invite. You know. So I'm terrible. Another example, this just happened. This happened 2 weeks ago. I'm in my backyard. I was on Facebook just for a minute. I was getting ready to mow. I stuck the phone in the pocket. My dad, I know this is being recorded, but he liked to go to the bathroom outside. He taught us, you know, why go inside when you go outside? So I figured, you know, before I mow the yard, I'm in my backyard. I took up all these trees. It's nice and private. I'm going to the bathroom. My phone rings. Pick it up. Hey, Jay, what are you doing? Dad, you're on Facebook Live and you're peeing. Oh, my goodness. What? You got to be kidding me. So we got that off. Only one person checked in on that thing when I was live. I wasn't live that long. Only one person. There was an old friend, and he gave me a hard time. Couldn't see anything. You just hear. You just kind of knew what was going on. No, I'm terrible with high technology. I just can't do it. That's one reason I got out of the business. So forget that. I went to Valvoline. Had a friend got me an interview. One interview, I accepted the job that day, Massachusetts, Maine, and I left there after going to HR and signing all the paperwork and all that kind of good stuff. I went and bought an atlas at a gas station to see where I was going, because I didn't really know where I was going. And I went up and I covered Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Rhode Island, all of New England, Connecticut. 16 years. I lived in Hampton Beach as a single man. I moved over to Boston Spa, upstate New York. I could sit on my back deck at Boston Spa, and the wind was blowing my way. There was a place called Saratoga Performing Arts Center called the SPAC up in Saratoga, and I could listen to the concerts. I would listen to the Grateful Dead or Bob Seger, because I could sit there and the wind was blowing. I was that close to the outdoor arena. So that was good. That's, times were good then. I had an expense account. I had a company car. I loved to golf. I loved to ski. I wasn't married. I mean, what else was there to do? I just had a lot of fun. That changed. I got married. Went back to Merrimack, New Hampshire, where all 4 of my daughters were born. And then, after about 16 years, I got a promotion back to come back to Lexington. Happy to do so. And I started traveling. I started traveling a whole lot. I was a national sales manager for this Quick Loop program that I became part of. But I would leave Monday. I'd come back Tuesday night. I would leave again Wednesday or Thursday. Come back Friday night. This was every week. In corporate life back then, we talked about our things on Saturday. Emailing and talking and voicemailing. It was nonstop. I had 4 girls. Not sure I liked that. I was in Reno, Nevada at a AOCA show. For those that haven't been to one of those, it's Automotive Oil Change Association, and Valvoline obviously a big part of that. And I was the wheeler dealer, right? I was the sales guy. I would jump around to different tables in the casino, saying, "Hey, you here with the conference? You with the conference?" And if nobody was with the conference, I'd pick up my money and I'd get off and I'd go to another table. Sure enough, I found somebody at a blackjack table that was with the conference. And I started talking to him. I went right into sales mode. He ended up having a store. He said, "You won't know where I am." He told me where. I said, "Is that next to Sam's Club in South Point?" He said, "Yeah." I grew up in Ashland. He was in South Point, Ohio, right across the river from Ashland, Kentucky, where I grew up. Long story short, I went and saw him. He liked the program. He knew he needed to make some changes. He didn't want to give me his financials. He just wanted to sell it. I said, "How much you looking for?" I ended up buying that one. I left Valvoline on a Friday. I closed on a Monday, March 19th, 2003. Anybody know what that day was? I sure do. It was the second time. That's the anniversary of the second time we invaded Iraq. Remember the first one, 10-day little desert storm, 10-day done? I was vacillating. What do I do? I had a pretty good life at Valvoline. I'm going to go for it. So I bought it. They invaded Iraq the day I bought. It wasn't a 10-day deal. I saw gas prices go up. I saw oil prices go up. I saw car counts go down. What have I done? You want to talk about reflection? First 7 years of my business as a small business guy, you had the Iraq War, which severely affected oil prices and what's going on with there. People are choosing, do I put gas in my car, or do I get an oil change? Do I put food on my table, or do I get an oil change? A lot of times we were not on the top of everybody's list. So it was tough. And then you had 8, 9, and 10, you had the recession. So literally, 7 out of my first 8 years were tough economic times. And again, I'm telling you, I sit there and wonder, what have I done? Why have I done this? That gave me great reflection. And then the second question you asked, what did Central do to sustain you in hard times? There's a pew out there that I sat there and I would pray that I could make payroll. usually a payroll I wasn't on. Times were tough. I didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I'm not bragging, but I made a good living at Valvoline. I was 6 figures. I didn't come close. For years, I didn't come close. Matter of fact, I only beat my Valvoline salary one time, and that was my last year. But what it gave me was something totally different. It gave me time. What if I changed my mind, and I thought about changing my mind and not buying that store and staying with Valvoline, then I think now, what would have changed? What would have changed? There would have been no best friends. If you know me, I'm all about best friends and that program. There would have been no dementia-friendly Huntington. There would have been no, I wouldn't have been a part of dementia-friendly Lexington. I wouldn't have been able to go see my dad twice a day when he was in that nursing home. I would go twice a day, usually 6 if not 7 days a week. I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to volunteer with best friends. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things because corporate life just engulfed you. So looking back on it, I'm telling you, the Lord does work in mysterious ways. He does. Because he set me on this path. I don't know if it'd be central. As I didn't, as a young executive, I didn't think I had time for anything. Sunday was my only day, just kind of hang out with the kids. I don't know if it'd been central. Because at that time, for some reason, I didn't think I needed anybody else in my life. I was always a believer in God. I didn't go to church. I remember when I was in New Hampshire, I called my dad. I said, Dad, they don't have any disciples of Christ up here. Where do I go? If I want to go back, it's been 5 years since I've been back around. I thought, time to go back to be a regular member again. So he said, congregational church. That's all right. There's one right up the street. It's a beautiful little white church, white steeple. Think of New Hampshire, think of New England. I went there. It was a good service. They invited me downstairs for a little fellowship. Went down there talking to a couple of ladies. Talked to a couple more little ladies. Another young lady came in. They introduced me to her. Wouldn't it be great if we had a wedding here someday? Wouldn't that be great? I never went back to that church again. They were talking about me and this girl getting married. I thought, whew, this is going way too fast. I'm out of here. So I didn't go back to church again for a long time. For a long time. Who am I profoundly grateful for? It'd be family. It'd be family and cell phones. I like your buzzer. I'm profoundly grateful for family. I have a very deep history of the Disciples of Christ faith. My mom's parents were members of Woodland, and they were the first wave to go over and open up Crestwood. They lived on Glendover. So I grew up walking to Crestwood Christian Church a lot. When we came to Lexington, and my wife said, we're going to find a church. And she wanted to include all these different churches. I said, okay, I'll play this game. I knew I was going to land either at Crestwood or at Central. I was going to be at Disciples of Christ. We went to Lafayette Christian Church. Beautiful little church. Love that little church. But I knew it was going to be one of these two places. We landed at Central. My dad's father was an elder at his church in Madisonville, Kentucky. Disciples of Christ. I know Ted Faulkner, my dad's best friend. Disciples of Christ. I knew a lot of ministers. David Blondell from Crestwood. Bert Smith from Glasgow. I would meet these people. I met Guy Waldrop in Mexico City at a national Disciples of Christ convention. It was in Mexico City. And we went there with Mom and Dad. I met, it's the first place I met Guy Waldrop. I met Kenneth Teagarden. I met some old guys. Guy Waldrop means a lot to me. And I wish no ill on anybody, but I was coming, our family was going to join the church January 1st, 2006. We'd settled on this. We didn't tell anybody we were going to do it. We were just going to do it. And that was the day, Michael Moody, his first day that he was gone because of his heart issues. Guy Waldrop preached. Guy Waldrop accepted my family into this church. So basically I've had Dad accept me into his churches and Guy. And that's it. I very seriously thought about going up and rededicating my life with David Shirey because he was worthy. As a minister's son, it's hard to go to church because you can't find anybody that stands up to your minister that was your father. That was very tough. Very tough. David Sherry was. He was there. We were lucky. We were blessed. So I'm grateful for my family and the traditions we have. From young to old, we believed in visiting. We would go visit, and that visit would end up with singing, and we'd sing the old rugged cross, and we'd sing those old hymns, and they'd sing in parts. We wouldn't need a piano. They would just sing. And that's how I grew up. I loved it. I'm thankful that Ted's here, my dad's best friend. This is the Bible my dad gave me when he baptized me in 1971 in Ashland. Sorry about the graffiti. Everybody see Forrest Gump with the smiley face when that was big? That was this. And I thought, Bible's a happy place. Why put a smiley face on there? They don't make them like they used to. You couldn't get this thing off if you wanted to. It's been on there since 1971. It's not even close to coming off. I'd also like to say part of my new family is Dawn Nunley back here. We appreciate you in everything you've done. We've enjoyed getting to know you. But it's family that I'm grateful for. It's family that has brought me to love and to teach me how to love my children. And I will fight with them too, because I'll fight for their time. I'll fight to be together. I'll fight to be the family that I grew up in. Thank you very much. Can I add one thing? I meant to have somebody, as a minister's child, Dad, how long is your sermon? He'd tell me 15 minutes. In Ashland, I got my first time Ashland, my grandfather. He taught me how to tell time. And we would sit in about the third row. If you're in our church in Ashland was just like this one. Had 3 sections. We were down on the left, about where the cottons would sit. And we were always there. And then I would watch, and when Dad started speaking, 15 minutes was up, I'd be doing this. It's all cute. Yeah, got those laughs and giggles from the church. That didn't last very long. Mom and Dad set me down and said, you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. Okay. So I learned the next best way to do it. This minister's kids. Dad would always have his sermon on his desk. Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening. It'd be right there. Nice, all of his nice little sermon. I would take it. I would flip to the last page. I would read the last 2 paragraphs. And that way in church, when I heard something that sounded familiar, I knew we were close to the end. Minister's time.
Thank you, David. We are grateful to have you as part of this family at Central Christian Church.